There is a moment in every franchise quarterback's journey that doesn't show up on a stat sheet. It doesn't get recorded in the box score. It doesn't generate a grade from the film analysts or get debated on the sports talk shows the next morning. It's the moment when opposing players stop talking about the quarterback and start talking about the crowd. Because that's when you know something real is happening, not manufactured hype, not social media noise. Something that people can physically feel inside the stadium walls when the game is live and every snap carries genuine weight. And right now, that moment is happening around Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. A veteran defensive star just described what it felt like going against Sanders during a game this past season. And the part of the experience that stood out to him wasn't the throws. It wasn't the scrambles. It wasn't even the trash talk, though there was plenty of that. It was the feeling that he wasn't just playing against a quarterback and 10 other offensive players. He was playing against an entire city. That is a statement that changes how you look at everything building around Shedeur Sanders right now. Because when the defenders across the line of scrimmage are the ones telling you the atmosphere has reached another level, when the people whose job it is to stay focused and ignore crowd noise are publicly acknowledging that they couldn't ignore it, then whatever is happening between this quarterback and this fan base is something that extends well beyond hype. And the specific story behind that comment makes it even more revealing than the headline suggests. The play that started everything was a football play, simple as that. The veteran defensive tackle made a strong play on Sanders, a tackle for loss right before the quarter break. Clean, physical, exactly the kind of play that defensive linemen get paid to make. He was doing his job, and doing it well. Then on the next sequence, things got personal. He got to Sanders again, this time hitting him high. The kind of hit that lives in the gray area between clean and flaggable. The officials didn't throw a flag, but the Cleveland fans did something much louder than any yellow flag could have produced. They erupted. Not just booing, not just the generic crowd displeasure that happens when a home quarterback takes a hard hit. This was targeted, sustained, emotional hostility directed at one defender for the rest of the game. Every time he was visible on the field, the fans let him know exactly how they felt about what happened. Every time he lined up near Sanders, the volume increased. Every play became a personal exchange between one defender and thousands of voices, who had decided that protecting their quarterback was now their primary objective for the remainder of the afternoon. The defender described it with genuine respect for how intense it was. He wasn't complaining about it. He wasn't suggesting the fans were out of line. He was acknowledging something that most NFL veterans understand instinctively. When a fan base decides that a quarterback is theirs, the stadium stops being a neutral venue and starts becoming a weapon. That kind of fan investment in a rookie quarterback is genuinely uncommon. Normally, that level of protective energy takes years to develop. Fans need to see their quarterback battle through adversity, win meaningful games, earn the right to be treated as the face of the franchise. It's a gradual process of trust being built through shared experiences over multiple seasons. Sanders appeared to skip that entire process. The connection was immediate, visceral, and real enough that the defender on the other side of the ball could feel it affecting the rhythm of his game. But then something happened between Sanders and the defender that made the entire story even better. Shedeur Sanders was talking, and not quietly. The defender acknowledged it with the kind of amused respect that veterans show when a young player has genuine competitive fire rather than empty bravado. He told Sanders directly, "You're still a young buck. You're still a rookie." The implication being clear: I respect that you're out here competing, but understand who you're talking to. But Shedeur wasn't interested in being quiet. That's not how he operates. Then came the moment that changed the temperature of the entire game. Sanders scored. Reports suggest he connected on a touchdown pass, found his receiver and put points on the board. And instead of celebrating with his teammates and moving on, he found the defender, specifically sought him out on the field, and taunted him directly to his face. The defender's response was immediate and honest. He didn't pretend it didn't bother him. He didn't take the professional high road and claim it was all just part of the game. His exact reaction was essentially, "Bet. You want this to be a competition. Now it's a competition." From that point on, every snap became personal. Every time he got close to Sanders, there was a nudge, a bump, a word. The kind of sustained competitive intensity that turns a regular season game into something both players remember long after the final whistle. The defender's philosophy about it was refreshingly honest. He said that when a quarterback engages like that, when he doesn't hide behind his offensive line and pretend the competition doesn't exist, it actually makes everything better. The trash talk becomes fuel. The physical play becomes more intense. Both sides elevate because neither side is willing to let the other have the last word. His point was direct. If you're going to score on me and celebrate in my face, that's your right. You earned that moment. But understand that I'm going to come back even harder on the next play, and the play after that, and every play until the game is over, because that's how competition is supposed to work. But here is the part that separates genuine competitive respect from manufactured NFL drama. After the game, after all the trash talk, the bumping, the non-stop verbal warfare, the defender said they connected at the Pro Bowl, chopped it up, built a relationship. He called Sanders a good dude, genuine, worth knowing beyond the competition on the field. That's the hallmark of real competitive fire. It burns hot during the game and cools into mutual respect after it. Players who compete like that, the ones who can go to war for 60 minutes and then genuinely connect as people afterward, those are the players who earn respect across the league in ways that quiet professionals simply don't. Sanders is building that kind of reputation, and he's doing it while simultaneously building something with the Cleveland fanbase that most franchises spend decades trying to create. The Cleveland Browns and the quarterback position share a history that carries more emotional weight than almost any other franchise position relationship in professional football. The list of quarterbacks who have started games for the Browns over the past 2 decades is long enough to be its own documentary. The constant turnover, the shifting plans, the promises about the future that never quite materialized, all of it has created a fan base that approaches the quarterback position with a very specific combination of desperate hope and deeply earned skepticism. Every time a new quarterback enters the spotlight in Cleveland, the reaction is immediate and intense, not because the fans are unreasonable, because they've been through this cycle enough times to know that the window of genuine excitement around a new quarterback is precious and fleeting. They want to believe. They want to feel that this time might be different. And they want to see the signs, any signs, that the player standing behind center might actually be the one who stays. What makes the Sanders situation different from the typical Cleveland quarterback cycle is the speed at which the emotional connection formed. Most young quarterbacks go through a gradual courtship with their fanbase. They win a game here, show a flash of brilliance there. Over the course of a season or two, the relationship builds incrementally as the fans accumulate reasons to invest emotionally. Sanders skipped that entire progression. From the moment he stepped onto the field, from the first time Cleveland fans watched him operate in a real game with real stakes, the energy shifted in ways that were visible and immediate. Phones came out. Fans stood up. The conversations in the stands changed from generalized game commentary to focused, emotional investment in every single thing he did. His style did it. The confidence, the way he carried himself in the huddle, the competitive fire that was visible from the upper deck, the swagger that read as genuine self-belief rather than performative arrogance. Cleveland fans watched him and saw something they hadn't seen from the quarterback position in a very long time, a player who looked like he belonged there and wasn't afraid to act like it. That instant connection is rare, And it's the kind of thing that, once it forms, creates an atmosphere that affects everything around it. Defensive players in the NFL are trained to compartmentalize crowd noise. It's part of the job. You learn early in your career that hostile stadiums are going to be loud, that fans are going to scream things at you, and that the ability to stay focused through all of it is a fundamental professional requirement. But there's a threshold where crowd noise stops being background and starts becoming something else entirely. And according to the defender who shared his experience playing against Sanders, Cleveland Stadium crossed that threshold. The difference between normal crowd noise and what he described is the difference between generic enthusiasm and targeted, emotional investment. Normal crowd noise is loud but diffuse. It fills the stadium generally. It rises during big moments and settles during routine plays. It's part of the environment, but it doesn't change the way individual plays feel. What the defender described was different. Every hit on Sanders triggered an immediate, intense reaction. Not just noise, emotion. The crowd wasn't just loud. They were angry when he got hit. They were ecstatic when he made a play. They were invested in every single snap in a way that made the defender feel like each play carried personal consequences that extended beyond the scoreboard. When Sanders dropped back to pass, the crowd leaned forward collectively. When the pocket collapsed and defenders got close, thousands of voices reacted in unison. Gasps, shouts, the visceral sound of a fan base that has decided they are personally responsible for protecting this quarterback with the force of their vocal cords. For a defender, that kind of environment genuinely adds psychological weight to every snap. Football is already an intense, high-pressure sport at the NFL level. Every play matters. Every mistake gets amplified. But when the crowd is reacting to every single thing the quarterback does, when one broken coverage or one missed tackle is going to trigger an explosion of noise that makes the defender feel like he just committed a personal offense against 40,000 people, the intensity compounds in ways that are hard to describe until you felt them. The defender acknowledged it directly. He said it felt like he wasn't just trying to stop the offense. He was trying to silence an entire fan base, and the fan base wasn't interested in being silenced. That is the kind of home field advantage that can't be manufactured through speaker systems or promotional gimmicks. It comes from genuine belief, from fans who have decided, emotionally, personally, and with full investment that the player they're watching is worth making noise for. And Sanders is generating that level of investment from a Cleveland fan base that has been burned enough times to be extremely careful about where they place their trust. Joey Porter's story about David Carr adds a layer of historical perspective to this conversation that's worth sitting with. Porter, one of the most intimidating defensive presences of his era, shared his own version of what happens when a young quarterback decides to engage in the competitive dynamic rather than staying quiet and hopping. The defenders leave him alone. David Carr was the first overall pick, from Bakersfield, California, the same hometown as Porter. That shared origin created a dynamic where teammates were actively trying to stir things up between them. Someone asked Carr directly, "Who's bigger, you or Joey Porter?" And Carr answered immediately, "Himself." Porter's reaction tells you everything about how elite defenders process competitive disrespect. He didn't get angry in a destructive way. He got motivated. He told his agent directly, "You can't help him. You can't protect him. I'm coming for him every single chance I get for the rest of this game." His philosophy about it was straightforward and honest. When a player engages, when he doesn't hide from the competition, when he's willing to talk and willing to back it up, it makes the game better for everyone. The trash talk becomes fuel. The physical intensity increases. Both players play harder because neither is willing to let the other have the last word. Porter's specific point about the nature of competition is the part that connects directly to the Sanders story. He said that when someone scores on you or makes a play against you, they've earned the right to brag. They've earned the showboat moment. But they also have to accept that the response is coming. And the response is going to be physical and immediate and intense. The connection to Sanders is clear. Shedeur scored and came back to find the defender's face. That's earned celebration, but it's also an invitation for what comes next. And the defender accepted that invitation enthusiastically for the rest of the game. What makes this dynamic healthy rather than toxic? What separates genuine competitive fire from the kind of on-field behavior that creates real problems? Is the mutual respect that exists underneath the trash talk. Porter and Carr could go to war during the game and then exist as professionals in the same league space afterward. The defender who went back and forth with Sanders described the same dynamic. They connected at the Pro Bowl, talked, built a relationship based on the respect that only genuine competition can create. Sanders is navigating that dynamic with the instincts of someone who has been in competitive environments his entire life. He doesn't shy away from it. He doesn't pretend to be above it. And he doesn't let it consume him past the final whistle. That balance is harder to find than people realize. And it's one of the characteristics that separates quarterbacks who earn lasting respect around the league from quarterbacks who generate headlines but not relationships. The distinction between social media hype and genuine stadium atmosphere is one of the most important things to understand about the energy building around Shedeur Sanders right now. Online buzz is easy to manufacture. Highlight clips get shared. Twitter takes get amplified. Instagram stories generate impressions. The modern sports media ecosystem is designed to create the appearance of excitement around any player who generates content, and Sanders certainly generates content. But what opposing players are describing isn't something they experienced on their phone screens. It's something they felt inside the stadium during a live game with real consequences. The defender didn't say he watched exciting highlights and thought Sanders had a good social media presence. He said the crowd shifted the entire atmosphere of the game in ways that affected how it felt to play football in that building. That distinction is enormous, because online buzz can disappear as quickly as it appears. A bad game, a controversy, a slow stretch of performances, and the content machine moves on to the next storyline. Stadium atmosphere built on genuine belief is much harder to create and much harder to destroy. What Cleveland fans are building around Sanders is the second kind. The kind that comes from being physically present in the building and choosing, with their voices, their emotions, and their energy, to invest in a player they believe could be the answer to a question that has haunted this franchise for decades. That investment affects actual game dynamics in measurable ways. When the crowd is that engaged, defensive players feel additional pressure on every snap. When the crowd is that protective, every hit on the quarterback becomes a moment that energizes rather than deflates the home team's momentum. When the crowd is that emotionally invested, the stadium itself becomes an active participant in the competition rather than just a venue where the competition takes place. The defender confirmed all of this through his own experience. He felt it, not hypothetically, not as a concept he was analyzing from a distance. He felt the crowd change the rhythm of his game in real time. That's not hype. That's a genuine competitive advantage that the Cleveland Browns are building around their young quarterback. And it's the kind of advantage that, once established, only grows stronger with each game that reinforces it. The question that the entire city of Cleveland is quietly building toward. The question that gets bigger with every game Shedeur Sanders plays and every reaction the crowd produces is simple. What happens if the performances start consistently matching the energy? Right now, the fan connection is built on belief, on potential, on the back half of last season's flashes and the competitive fire that's visible every time Sanders takes the field. The crowd is reacting to what they see in him, the confidence, the swagger, the poise, and to what they hope he can become more than what he has fully demonstrated over a complete body of work. That's not a criticism. That's simply where the timeline stands. The full seasons haven't been stacked yet. The complete evaluation hasn't played out. The sustained run of performance that turns potential into established production hasn't happened. It's ahead of him, not behind him. But consider what happens if the 2026 season produces what the environment around him seems to be anticipating. If Sanders develops into a legitimate franchise quarterback, if the rebuilt offensive line gives him the platform to operate, if the coaching staff develops him the way they've publicly committed to, if the consistency matches the flashes, then the combination of an already passionate fan base and a fully realized quarterback creates something that goes beyond normal home field advantage. Every signature moment amplifies the atmosphere. Every fourth quarter comeback adds another chapter to the legend being written in real time. Every time he finds a receiver in a tight window and the crowd explodes, the connection between player and city deepens in ways that become self-reinforcing. Think about what the great quarterback-city relationships have looked like in NFL history. They all started somewhere. They all had a beginning point where the fans decided, before the proof was fully in, that this was their player. And then the performances validated the belief, and the belief fueled even bigger performances. And the cycle kept building until the relationship became part of the identity of the franchise itself. Cleveland might be in the earliest stages of exactly that kind of cycle right now. The ingredients are present. The fan base has decided. The energy in the stadium has reached levels that opposing players are publicly acknowledging. The only piece that remains is sustained, consistent, season-length performance that turns the potential into proof. If that proof arrives in 2026, if Sanders delivers the kind of production that matches the investment Cleveland fans have already made in him emotionally, then the atmosphere inside that stadium is going to reach something that goes beyond loud. It's going to become legendary. The kind of home field environment that opposing teams dread traveling to. The kind of noise that changes games in ways that don't show up in any analytical model. Step back and look at the complete picture of what is assembling around Shedeur Sanders right now. A coaching staff that believes in him publicly, that speaks about him with genuine enthusiasm rather than careful evasiveness. A head coach who has already built a personal relationship with him before the first official practice of the offseason. A general manager using the language of real organizational belief rather than corporate hedging. A rebuilt offensive line designed specifically to give him the protection he needs to operate. Draft capital being considered for weapons that would make the passing game genuinely dangerous. An organizational infrastructure being constructed around the assumption that he is the quarterback this franchise is moving forward with. A fan base that has emotionally locked in behind him with an intensity that opposing players can feel during live games. A stadium atmosphere that has already reached a level where defenders are publicly acknowledging that they weren't just playing against an offense. They were playing against an entire city's worth of emotional investment. And at the center of all of it, a young quarterback with the competitive fire to talk trash to a veteran defender after scoring a touchdown. The poise to handle the weight of franchise expectations without cracking. And the self-awareness to build genuine relationships with the people trying to beat him once the competition is over. The alignment of all of these factors happening simultaneously is the rarest thing in professional football. Most organizations spend years trying to get even 2 or 3 of these elements in place at the same time. Cleveland appears to have all of them converging around one player in one offseason, heading into one critical season.